except and we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would like to have Brian Tisdale from Lake Elsinore lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please join me as we honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janice, can you please conduct roll call?
Absolutely. When I call your jurisdiction, if you would please be so kind as to state your name. City of Banning.
David Happy, present.
Beaumont.
Mike Laura, present.
Calamasa.
Wendy Hewitt.
Canyon Lake.
Dale Welty.
Corona. City of Corona. Eastville.
Here.
Is that Mr. Dinko?
Oh, yep. Yes, here for Eastville.
Thank you, sir. Hemet.
Russ Brown here.
Rupa Valley.
Chris Brajas.
Lake Elsinore.
Brian Tisdale.
Menifee.
Matt Leafmeyer.
Moreno Valley.
Ed Delgado.
Murrieta.
Lori Stone.
Norco. City of Norco.
This is Ted Hallman. I think Kevin's still in the RCA meeting, but I'll listen in for him.
Thank you, sir. Paris.
Rita Rogers here.
Riverside.
Ronaldo Fierro here.
San Jacinto.
Crystal Ruiz here.
Temecula.
Stewart.
Welcome, sir. Wildemar. Wildemar. County District 1. County District 1.
He's probably still at RCA.
Thank you. District 2.
I'm here.
District 3.
RCA.
District 5.
RCA.
Jeff will be late. He's on RCA.
Thank you. Eastern Municipal Water District. Mr. Pauly. Western Municipal Water District.
Brenda Denstead.
Riverside County Superintendent of Schools. And let's go back to a couple that didn't answer. Maybe they came on. City of Corona. City of Wildemar.
Wildemar here. Benvenuto.
Thank you. And Eastern Municipal Water District.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So the only ones we're missing are District 1, 3, and 5. And City of Corona, assuming the county is at the RCA meeting. That concludes roll call and we have quorum.
Thank you. We will now move to public comments. And at this time, is anybody wishing to address this body and regarding items listed on the agenda? Do we have anybody for public comment?
We have no requests.
Okay, last chance. Is there anybody here wishing to address this body? Okay. Seeing none, we will now move to our consent calendar. And all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may enact in one motion. Do we have anybody wishing to pull an item for further discussion? That's items 5A through 5M. Does anybody have an item they wish to pull?
Lake Elsinore moves approval.
Western Municipal Water seconds it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
City of Banning.
Yes.
Beaumont.
Yes.
Calamasa.
Yes.
Canyon Lake.
Yes.
Corona. Eastvale.
Aye.
Hemet.
Yes.
Rupa Valley.
Yes.
Lake Elsinore.
Yes.
Menifee.
Yes.
Moreno Valley.
Yes.
Murrieta.
Yes.
Norco.
Yes.
Paris.
Yes.
Riverside.
Yes.
San Jacinto.
Yes.
Temecula.
Yes.
Wildemar.
Wildemar, yes.
County District 1. District 2.
Yes.
District 3. District 5. Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Aye.
That concludes roll call vote for that item, and it passes unanimously.
Okay. Moving right along, we are now on item 6A, and this is REAP funding assistant agreements. Mr. Gray.
Thank you so much, members of the committee. Chris Gray, WRCOG's Deputy Executive Director. Next slide, please. We are here today to talk about providing some grant funding we secured through the state's REAP program. REAP is Regional Early Action Planning, and it is a roughly $250 million program which the state of California is using to support planning activities within local governments. The money was provided to SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, and they developed a regional partnership planning. And from there, the money flowed to one of two entities, either the COGs, as in such as WRCOG and the other 17 COGs within the subregion, or directly to the counties. We had come back to you in late 2020, November, December, to show you our work plan and show you how we propose to allocate those funds. Next slide, please. What has happened is that WRCOG has done extensive outreach with our planning directors within the region. And what they have told us is they needed help on a variety of issues. In some cases, they needed consultants. In some cases, they needed additional contract planners. So as the money became available from SCAG, we started to respond to different requests. And here's an example. We provided housing element review for the city of Paris, and we provided some additional support to the city of Riverside. However, we want to expand the services we provide, and we'd like to also bring forward a template agreement to govern how the services are provided. Next slide, please. So we came back to our planning directors in December 2021, and what we primarily heard from them is many of them need additional contract planning services. Almost all of our member agencies routinely use contract planners. So these are not employees, but consultants who serve as staff who provide services to the planning departments. They may do application review. They may prepare staff reports. They generally work under the supervision of full-time staff working at the cities. And what was shared with us by the planning directors was a strong desire for additional contract planning staff. And we have identified a number of tasks. For many of them, it includes application review, but in other cases, it includes updating ordinances and such. And we felt it was beneficial to come back to this committee before we started to provide those services on a more extensive basis. Next slide, please. So what we landed on was developing a voluntary process. The way this would work is as follows. We would first develop an agreement which would be entered into voluntarily between the city and WRCOG. This agreement would include discussions of, for example, insurance, indemnification, and the like. And what it does is provides both financial and legal protection for both WRCOG and the city. We prepared a draft template, and this template has been sent to the TAC and the PDC for their review. Next slide, please. What we've also determined is to provide the highest level of protection about WRCOG in the city, we need to amend our standard PSA template, our professional services agreement template, to include some additional language to specifically refer to these services. And one of the two actions that's coming forward today is to approve an agreement, an amendment to agreement we have with one consultant, and we'll be having additional consultant agreements amended shortly in the future. Next slide, please. So here's the summary. We've received a funding stream which allows us to help the cities work on a variety of planning issues. We want to use these funds to help our cities. And just to reiterate, these funds come as no cost to the city. We want to set up a formal process for cities to request these services. And we want to provide these services under the umbrella of a formal agreement between WRCOG and the city rather than an informal agreement. We believe this provides structure and legal protection for all the parties involved. Just so you're aware, It is our intention to use these agreements for other services we provide. And so you will see other agreements being brought forward. And I would just close by saying there's no cost to WRCOG because the grant also allows us to recoup all of administrative costs. So essentially, we have free money that we want to provide to our cities, and we would like your approval of a agreement to allow us to do that. So next slide, please. So Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions. We do have some requested actions. We'd like approval of the agreement template and agreement of a contract amendment template with one of our consultants with that contract language to be used in all future agreements going forward. And Madam Chair, as I said, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions on this item?
I do.
Mr. Stewart, welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. So first of all, where exactly does these funds come from and what exactly are they supposed to be used for again? I'm kind of unclear.
So they come from a state program called REAP, which is Regional Early Action Planning. And what the state did several years ago was they had received feedback from local governments that one of the reasons they're not able to approve housing projects is they simply lack the resources for things like general plans, zoning code updates, project review. And so the state created this program in response to those comments. So this is money which is flowing from the state. There was an earlier pot of money called SB2, which actually went directly to the states. For this round of funding, the state chose to have a model where it went to the regions, in our case, the Southern California region, and then it was split two ways. There was a direct allocation to the county, and there was a direct allocation to WRCOG with the intention that WRCOG would then provide that money to the cities.
Okay, great.
All right, and Matt, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris, so specifically to planning assistance, I mean, forgive me, but I don't know that WRCOG has a huge arsenal of planning technicians. I mean, are you proposing that we'd probably subcontract this to some other firm, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's our intention, because we have an existing on-call planning bench, which has a number of firms on this. Many of those firms are already providing contract services. So we will not be hiring additional staff. We will simply be using our existing contracts and future contracts to hire firms to work on behalf of our cities.
Okay, so help me understand why this is something advantageous for us to do when our member agencies can contract for this service directly on their own.
Because it doesn't cost you anything. So simply put, so if the city of Menifee, for example, were to go out and hire 2 contract planners outside of this program, you would be responsible for paying those 2 contract planners unless you pass along the cost to your developers. What this program allows you to do, and I would also say it's optional, is to, rather than spend $50,000 out of the city budget for that, we will cover the cost and WRCOG is then reimbursed by our grant.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Yes. Can I ask one more?
I guess you're back just a short time, so after that you blow it.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm still trying to, I'm kind of tagging with Matt here. I'm kind of trying to figure out what kind of programs would be one that WRCOG would actually support in this measure. I mean, is it like anything, or is there specific to like a regional planning issue?
So here's an example of something we've already done. The city of Paris asked us to use one of our consultants to do a third-party review of their housing element because they needed additional staff and additional people. So rather than going out and hiring someone to review their housing element, we did it for them on their behalf. So it was at no cost to them, and we did that work. So we have been asked, some of our cities have said, you know, we really need to update our zoning ordinance. Others have said, you know, we really need help with this new state legislation. You all may have heard of SB 9 and SB 10. There's also SB 35, SB 330. Another example was there's new state legislation, you may have heard of it, called SB 330. It requires approvals of projects within certain timeframes. So the city of Riverside came to us and said, can you help us develop a checklist that we can then use as staff to make sure that we're complying with the state mandates? Those are examples of the things we have been asked to do. But there are probably, I would say, 10 to 12 different projects. But what I would say is they're all on the planning side. So for example, you can't use the money to build a park, but you could use the money, for example, to review a development application or bring on an additional person within your planning department to help deal with, maybe some of you have fairly significant project backlogs because there's more projects coming in than people really have resources to deal with. What I would say as a side note is we have seen an unprecedented level of development applications that we have not seen in over 10 years. So the level of development activity that's happened over the past 3 years, even with COVID, is higher than anything we've seen since the early 2000s. So in many cases, our cities are finding it very challenging to meet the state requirements, understand the new state legislation, do all the work that needs to get done, and we just want to provide additional assistance.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? Matt, you have your hand up. Is that still up from before? Perfect. Anybody else? What is the pleasure of this body?
I'll move approval.
Paris.
I have Mr. Stewart as the motion and Paris as a second.
City of Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Corona, Eastvale,
Yes.
Hemet,
Yes.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore, Lake Elsinore, Mr. Tis.
Sorry, Janice, I couldn't get off mute.
That's
Yes.
okay. Thank you, sir. Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Paris,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildomar,
Yes.
County District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 5, Eastern Municipal Water District,
Yes.
Western Municipal Water District.
Aye.
That concludes roll call vote for that item and it passes unanimously.
Okay, our next item is a report from the Technical Advisory Committee Chair, Mr. Van Wagenen.
Thank you, Chair. No update this week or this month. We met with a joint committee meeting with the executive committee to talk about the strategic planning session. So nothing new to add from the TAC. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, reports from our various committee representatives. Mr. Tisdale, CalCog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we did have a meeting in January. So just a couple of things. We did have a regional leadership conference scheduled for here at the Riverside Convention Center. Because of COVID, that has been canceled. And so right now we don't have any plans. I think they're going to try to do something in Sacramento in the summer when we can do something in person. Just a couple of things, some of their legislative priorities. So some of the key focus areas that we're looking at for 2022, and there's a whole list of them, and they've actually published a 2021 legislative report that you can go on calcog.com and look at. But just a couple of the items. One is the implementation of the Federal Infrastructure Act. They're looking at on the committee for the expenditure of state surplus. Not often does our state have a surplus, but right now $45 billion. So they're part of that to make sure that anything that we can get, we're part of it. Also, the implementation of SB 375, some of their reform ideas, and they're still working primarily with on the Brown Act improvements for regional agencies. Just some of their principles, they're looking at regional governance, encouraging state regional partnerships, pilots, transportation finance, regional transportation planning, infrastructure. And I think that's the big thing. So since we did our strategic planning meeting and now we sort of have our own legislative principles and body, that will help me to help them at the state level to bring all the parties together and make sure that we're all looking at some of the same issues and focusing on the same issues. And CalCog normally is in tune with League of Cities and the League of Counties and stuff. So we're all on the same sheet of music. And our next meeting is in a couple of months and I will report further. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Crystal, do you have a report from Sandag?
Nothing new. It's all the same old thing. The only thing is I so appreciate how we start our meetings promptly on time and we don't take so much time to introduce people. I mean, I would say at least over an hour was taken just by introductions. So it gets crazy down there, but they're just going over the same thing that they have been going over, and border crossings, the issues that they're having there, the regionally coming together to support these, getting these things fixed, their projects fixed and whatnot. So it's the same thing.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman, Sawpell and OWL.
Yeah, good news from OWL. If you want to get some of your water projects done, currently Proposition 1, Round 2, the Integrated Regional Water Program, the projects are being accepted and you can get that until March 25th. The easiest way to do it is for you to go on to the SAPA webpage and to the OWA subpage and the future funding opportunities link. Like I said, March 25th is the deadline. That is the state money on these Proposition 1 monies. And I suggest get your water engineers and your engineers together on that. That's a good, it was very profitable and very good programs the last time it went around. Also on the SOPWA side, the Santa Ana River Watershed Modification Pilot Program. This is a 4 to 5 year program where they're going to be doing cloud seeding up in the upper elevations of our Santa Ana River Water Project. Don't be worried, it's not the old Rainmaker type of a situation where we're going to get flooded out. They're only looking at a 7 to 8% increase in your water flow. So I would hope that you would, some of your water engineers, your flood control people in your cities and in the county look at some of these projects to see how this is going to affect us. We got to get our water tables up. Most of our cities are at less than 50% of this year's normal, and we're already into February. So hopefully this will stabilize some of our areas. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Benoit, our favorite.
Afternoon. Yeah, quick update from AQMD. We've got quite a few things going on right now, but probably the biggest item that's been brewing up for the last about 6 months is the item with the ports. Both the Port of Long Beach and the Port of LA failed to produce, and our team as well. We couldn't come to an agreement on some sort of a mitigation for both ports outside of a rulemaking process. So the rulemaking process has now begun. It will probably be very similar to the rule we've seen on the warehouses, but it's some sort of an indirect source rule. Our staff will be having publicly held meetings to create this rule. Most likely the rule won't be back before the board before maybe at earliest December, more likely January or February of next year. Our staff is also very busy with quite a few other projects, including the AQMP, which is the air quality mitigation plan that we'll have to also get done by January, February next year, along with many of other things. So there's a lot going on at the AQMD right now. Our staff is extremely busy, and just a lot of things happening in the air quality world, especially when we're getting so close to the 2023 federal deadline for attainment, which we are currently likely to miss. So anyhow, those are some of the updates.
Very good. And the last one is our SCAG Regional Council or Policy Committee representatives. Does anybody have anything to report to this body? Several of you are on SCAG committees. Do we have anything to share? Those of you who aren't aware is that May, okay, is it 4th, 5th? The first Friday, Saturday in, correct me if I'm wrong, in May is the annual General Assembly for SCAG. And that's open to all elected officials. So if you're interested, please inquire. You can either send me an email or a text. I'm happy to connect you with all the correct information. I don't want to spew it out now if I'm incorrect, so.
Chairwoman Spiegel, it's May 5th through 6th, and we'll add a link to the meeting on our summary sound bites we send out for the meeting.
Okay. In addition, feel free to call after he does that, but it really is a great networking opportunity and a lot of information that's passed and shared. So if you have the opportunity to be there, I certainly encourage you. If there is no other reports, we'll move on to the executive, my report, committee chair. I was going to mention about SCAG, so I've already jumped the gun. That's really the bigness of what I wanted to bring up was the SCAG. And I continue to thank the staff. I mean, this is not easy. I know we're now all 100% virtual, but hopefully we're going to be coming around. We'll have a discussion once things start opening up. I am confident, I could be wrong, that the mask mandate is supposed to end on February 15th. With some of our larger cities in the state, such as San Francisco, as well as Los Angeles, who are already reducing the mandates, gives indication that we will also have the opportunity to do so. So we will see what happens. Understand that these are state, not county mandates. The county has no mandates in place. So with that being said, we will move on to the report from our executive director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick item. For those of you who are part of the Regional Street Light Program, you'll recall that we have an outside contractor who takes care of the LED replacement and the maintenance component, which is Siemens or Unix. They're on a 5-year contract. That contract expires at the end of this calendar year. So in figuring out what the next steps are going to be, please be on the lookout for some communication from the WRCOG team to kind of work through that process so that we are ahead of schedule and have a plan in place before the end of the year. And that will conclude my report, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does anybody have any items they wish to put for future agendas? We're still going to have meetings even if you don't put anything on it. I'm sure Kurt will come up with some items for us. Okay, does anybody have any general announcements?
Real quick, I guess my comment, Karen, if I could add one.
Sure.
For future agendas, I'm curious, we haven't had an update from Aaron Sassy and the Cal Cities in a while. Is there that going to be coming back or?
Yeah, we're happy to do that. So we ended up in a spot where we were sort of overloaded with a bunch of sort of other business. So we've been having to sort of juggle the time constraints, but hopefully by next month-ish, we'll get back to a more normal schedule and we can do that part. Anytime that we don't have that verbally, we generally have it in just sort of an attachment that comes from them so that way we cover both cities and counties as well. But yeah, we will likely have that back soon.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, general announcements. Well, seeing none, I guess that moves us into closed session. Matt, you're smiling big up there. This time we're going to go ahead and move to closed session. And are there any members of the public who wish to speak on any of the items of closed session before we move into a break room?
I have no requests. I see no requests.
Okay. Mr. Devon, do you have any announcements?
No specific announcements. We do have 3 closed session items on the agenda today. Those are all listed on the agenda.
Is there any particular order we're going to do these in?
Yeah, we'll discuss that once we go into closed session, except that we will be taking the PACE items first.
Okay. And I'm assuming there's no anticipated report out.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. At this time, we will have everybody moved into the waiting room, except for the executive committee members. And when we do this, I really need to have all the executive committee with cameras on as we move in.
And I'm not sure if Russ is still on phone or not, so he may or may not have video. If he does